My parents showed up at my door with a locksmith and a loan officer, demanding I sign over the house I spent 10 years saving for. Your brother needs it more, they said. Family comes first. But when I showed my lawyer the paperwork, he laughed so hard he cried. Then he pulled my credit report, and what we found destroyed them all. Stay close while I tell you what really happened. And if this story hits home, show some love by subscribing and hitting that like button. My name is Mary. I'm in my late 20s, and I worked nearly my whole life to buy one thing, a small house on the south side of town. I saved for 10 years, skipped vacations. I ate cheap meals, worked double shifts at the hospital where I'm a nurse. Finally, at 27, I had something that belonged to me. A place where I could breathe. My peace. My reward. That peace didn't last long. One Saturday afternoon, my parents called a family meeting. They made it sound urgent, like someone was sick or dying. I rushed over, my heart pounding, worried something terrible had happened. When I walked into the living room, everyone looked tense. My parents sat upright on the sofa, their faces serious. My older brother Willie pretended to be calm while tapping his foot nervously against the carpet. I didn't even have time to sit down before my mother spoke. Mary, we need you to do the right thing. My stomach dropped. What's going on? Is someone sick? My dad cleared his throat, not meeting my eyes. Your brother needs stability. He's a firstborn son. It's only fair you sign over your house to him. Family supports family. I blinked, thinking I'd heard wrong. Sign over my house? To Willie. Willie leaned back in the armchair with a smug smile that made my skin crawl. It's just temporary. I'll take good care of it. Take good care. This was the same man who'd burned through money, crashed 2 cars, and borrowed from everyone he knew without paying them back. The same man with gambling debts at 3 casinos, late payments on everything, and broken promises stretching back years. Yet here my parents were, acting like I owed him the one thing I'd worked my entire life for. Their reasoning made no sense. They talked in circles, avoiding clear answers. Family unity, they said, helping your brother rebuild his life. You're young. You'll be fine. You can always buy another house later. I sat there feeling confusion turn into hurt, then into something harder. Why was I the one expected to sacrifice? Why was Willie always the golden child, praised for breathing, while I was treated like a backup plan? A resource to be used when convenient. That night I went home shaking. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Willie's smug face and heard my parents' casual dismissal of my decade of sacrifice. The next morning, I called a lawyer, Arthur Green. A friend from church had recommended him. I explained everything, my voice breaking at times. He listened carefully, taking notes, then asked me to repeat the part about handing over my house because of family unity. When I did, he burst into laughter. Not a small chuckle. A full, loud laugh that made him take off his glasses and wipe his eyes with a tissue. I'm sorry, he said, seeing my confused expression. I'm not laughing at you, Mary. I'm laughing because this demand is so legally absurd it's almost impressive. He leaned forward. But I think there's something much bigger going on here. Give me 2 days to look into this properly. And right then, I knew my life was about to change. 2 days later, Arthur called me back into his office. His expression was completely different now. Seriously, almost grim. Mary, I pulled your credit report, he said slowly, carefully. You need to see this. He slid a stack of papers across his desk. My hands shook as I picked them up. Credit card accounts I'd never opened. Personal loans I'd never taken. Store credit lines I'd never applied for. All in my name. All with balances. Some dated back to when I was 17 years old. I didn't open any of these. I whispered, my throat tight. I was 17. I didn't even have a job yet. Arthur nodded grimly. I know. Someone used your social security number when you were a minor. That's identity theft. A federal felony. The room seemed to tilt sideways. But who would even have access to? I stopped. My breath caught. The answer was obvious. Painfully obvious. Only my parents would have had my social security number when I was 17. They would have needed it for taxes, for insurance, for school documents. Arthur leaned forward, his voice gentle but firm. Mary, your parents didn't just ask you to give up your house. They've been using your identity for years. Probably to cover Willie's debts. I felt sick. My chest tightened. How much? About $45,000, Arthur said quietly. Spread across multiple accounts. Credit cards, personal loans, a car loan that defaulted. All opened before you turned 18. I couldn't breathe. The walls felt like they were closing in. My own parents. The people who raised me, who fed me, who took me to school every morning. They'd been stealing my identity since I was a teenager to fund Willie's disasters. What do I do? I asked, my voice breaking completely now. Arthur's expression hardened. First, we protect you. We freeze your credit, file identity theft reports, and secure your house legally so they can't touch it. Then, he paused, we let them keep digging their own grave. I followed Arthur's advice exactly. I acted like I was seriously considering my parents' request. I stayed polite during phone calls. I asked thoughtful questions about their plan. I pretended to wrestle with the decision, like a dutiful daughter who wanted to help but needed time to think. They grew bolder with each passing day. My mother even drafted a handwritten family agreement on floral stationery that looked official but was full of illegal clauses. My dad talked constantly about keeping everything in the family and not involving outsiders. Willie was the worst. He strutted around during family dinners like he already owned my house. By the end of the month, he said casually one evening, picking at his teeth, this place is mine. Just make it easy, sis. Don't be difficult like you always are. I smiled, stayed calm, nodded politely, and recorded every single word on my phone tucked in my purse. Meanwhile, Arthur worked in the background like a silent guardian. He filed identity theft reports with credit bureaus. He froze my credit completely. He prepared legal protections for my house that made it impossible for anyone to touch. Every boast Willie made, every manipulative text my parents sent, every guilt trip about family loyalty, it all became evidence in a growing file. Then came the meeting that sealed everything. My parents arranged to meet at a rented office space downtown. They said it was to finalize the house transfer properly and make everything legal. When I arrived, there was a man I didn't recognize sitting at the conference table. He stood and extended his hand with a practiced smile. Mary, I'm Mason Hale. I'm a loan officer helping your family with some financial restructuring. He was slick. Expensive navy suit, gold watch, hair perfectly styled, voice smooth like oil. My parents sat on either side of him, nodding encouragingly. Mary, Mason said, sliding a thick folder toward me across the polished table. This transfer agreement is very simple. Just sign here and here, and your brother's future is secure. Your parents have worked so hard to help him. This is just the final step. I picked up the folder slowly, pretending to read through the dense legal language. Mason leaned forward, lowering his voice in a way that felt threatening despite the gentle tone. Look, we can make this painless if you cooperate. No one has to know the complicated details. It's just paperwork. Standard family financial planning. I nodded politely, my heart racing. Inside my purse, my phone was recording everything. Every word. Every lie. Every manipulation. Your parents have already put so much into this, Mason continued, sensing hesitation. They've co-signed documents, provided financial history, and set up the loan structure. All you need to do is transfer the deed. Think of it as helping Willie rebuild his life. Isn't that what family does? My mother reached across the table and touched my hand. Sweetie, we're only asking because we love you both. Willie made mistakes, but he's family. You've always been the responsible one. The strong one. Help us help him. I looked at her hand on mine. The same hand that had held mine when I was little. The same hand that had signed my name on fraudulent documents when I was 17. Mason grew slightly impatient, his smile tightening. Mary, signing is in everyone's best interest. If you care about family unity, this is the logical, mature choice. Refusing would be selfish. Wouldn't it? I tilted my head, keeping my voice steady. I appreciate the offer and all the work you've put in, but I need more time to think about this. It's a big decision. The room went cold. My parents exchanged frustrated glances. My dad's jaw clenched. My mother's smile became strained. Willie, who'd been leaning against the wall, pushed off and glared at me. Seriously? After everything? You're really going to be difficult about this? I stood up slowly, gathering my purse. I just need time. That's reasonable, isn't it? I left the office with my heart pounding, so hard I thought they could hear it. But I'd done it. I'd stayed calm. I'd recorded everything. The pressure tactics, the lies, the manipulation, Mason's predatory lending approach, my parents' complicity. All of it was captured on audio. The next morning, Arthur sent formal legal notices to my parents, Willie and Mason Hale. The letters were clear and devastating. My house was fully secured under my name with legal protections. My credit was frozen and locked. Identity theft reports had been filed with federal authorities. Any attempt to coerce, manipulate, or defraud me could lead to immediate criminal charges. The panic started almost immediately. My mother called at 7 a.m, her voice high and frantic. "Mary, what have you done? We were just trying to help. This isn't necessary. You're overreacting." My father left a voicemail, his tone harder. "You're tearing this family apart over paperwork. Over a house. After everything we've done for you. This is how you repay us." Willie sent a string of texts, each angrier than the last. "Wow. You really called lawyers in your own family. You've always been selfish. This proves it. Hope you're happy ruining my life." Again, I didn't respond to any of it. Arthur had been clear, don't engage. Let them panic. Let them show who they really are. Then Arthur did something that changed everything. He submitted the recording of the meeting with Mason Hale to state and federal authorities investigating predatory lending practices. Within 72 hours, an investigation was opened. Mason Hale's lending operation was dirty. Beyond dirty, the recording from our meeting was just one piece, but it opened the door to everything else. Falsified loan documents, predatory interest rates, targeting vulnerable families, fraud on multiple levels. Mason was arrested within a week. And because the investigation traced back through his client list, it led directly to my parents and Willie. The identity theft, the forged documents, the years of covering Willie's gambling debts, using my stolen credit. It all came crashing down like a house of cards in a windstorm. My parents tried one last desperate attempt. They showed up at my door on a Tuesday evening. No warning. Just rang the bell and stood there looking smaller somehow. My mother's eyes were red from crying. My father looked older, tired. "Mary, please," my mother begged, her voice breaking. "Just withdraw the complaints. We can fix this as a family. We made mistakes, but we're still your parents. Please." My father added, his voice rough, "You're tearing us apart. Everything we built. Our reputation. Our standing in the community. Think of what this is doing to us." I stood in my doorway, looking at the people who raised me. The people who taught me to ride a bike and helped me with homework and celebrated my nursing school graduation. The people who stole my identity when I was 17. For a moment, I felt the weight of everything. The years of being second to Willie, the casual dismissal of my achievements, the expectation that I'd sacrifice everything for my brother, the betrayal that went deeper than I'd ever imagined. Then I spoke, my voice calm and steady. "You used my social security number when I was 17 years old. You opened credit accounts in my name to pay for Willie's gambling debts. For years, you let me work myself to exhaustion, and the whole time you were stealing from my future. Then you tried to take the one thing I worked 10 years to buy. You didn't ask. You demanded. You didn't care about me. You cared about protecting him." My mother started crying harder. "We're your parents. We were trying to help the family." "Parents don't steal from their children," I said quietly. "Parents don't commit felonies against their own daughter." "I'm done." I stepped back and closed the door. Through the woods, I heard my mother sobbing. I heard my father's heavy footsteps walking away. I locked the deadbolt. The consequences came swiftly and completely. Mason Hale was convicted of fraud, predatory lending, and conspiracy. He was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison. His lending business was permanently shut down, his assets seized. Willie's entire financial life imploded. Every fraudulent credit account was flagged and closed. His credit score dropped to nearly 0. He couldn't get approved for apartments, car loans, or even basic credit cards. Banks saw the fraud flags and refused him everywhere. The golden child who'd coasted on my stolen credit suddenly had nothing. My parents faced federal charges for identity theft and fraud. They took a plea deal to avoid prison time, 3 years probation, significant fines, mandatory community service, and restitution payments. But the legal consequences were just the beginning. Their reputation in the community was destroyed. Friends stopped calling. Neighbors who used to chat over the fence now avoided eye contact. The church they'd attended for 20 years asked them to step back from all leadership positions. My mother's book club quietly stopped inviting her. My father's golf buddies made excuses. The family they tried so hard to protect, the image they'd carefully built for decades, crumbled into dust. And me, I kept my house, the house I'd worked for, the house they tried to take, the house that was mine and only mine. I painted the walls soft colors that made me feel calm. I planted flowers in the front yard, roses and lavender. I bought new furniture that felt like me, not like anyone's expectations. Arthur became more than my lawyer. He became a good friend. We'd meet for coffee sometimes at the cafe near his office, and he'd ask how I was settling in. Better every day, I'd say. And I meant it. I made friends with my neighbors. Lucy, who lived next door, brought me homemade cookies. Rosa from across the street invited me to her daughter's graduation party. Grace and I started walking together in the evenings. For the first time in years, I felt light, free. I didn't need my parents' approval anymore. I didn't need Willie's respect. I didn't need to prove anything to anyone. I had my home, my independence, my life on my own terms. And no one could take that away from me. Sitting on my porch one evening, watching the sun set over my neighborhood, I realized something important. Revenge isn't always loud. It isn't always dramatic. It doesn't require shouting or confrontation. Sometimes, revenge is simply protecting what's yours, standing firm when people try to take from you, documenting the truth, letting their own actions catch up to them. My parents had wanted me to sacrifice everything for Willie, to be the dutiful daughter who gave, and gave until there was nothing left. Instead, I showed them that I mattered too, that my work mattered, that my future mattered. I didn't destroy them. They destroyed themselves through years of favoritism, fraud, and the arrogant belief that I'd never fight back. And in the end, that realization was enough. I took a sip of my tea, felt the evening breeze, and smiled. This house, this life, this peace, it was all mine. Finally, completely, undeniably mine. Some people will say I should have forgiven my parents. That family is family, no matter what. But I learned something important. You don't owe people your future just because they raised you. My parents stole my identity when I was 17. They tried to take my house. They chose my brother over me for decades. Protecting myself wasn't revenge. It was survival. And I'd make that choice every single time. Here's my honest take on Mary's story. Her parents didn't just ask for help. They committed identity theft when she was a minor. That's a felony. They used her social security number for years to cover her brother's gambling debts. Then they tried to take her house using a fraudulent loan officer. And when she protected herself legally, they called her the problem. Mary didn't destroy her family. They destroyed themselves through years of favoritism, fraud, and manipulation. Was she right to press charges? Absolutely. If this story moved you, hit like and subscribe. Comment. Would you have done the same? See you in the next one.